Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Max and today's going to be an in-depth tutorial of how specifically to use coloured pencils for drawing portraits. And you can apply some of the techniques I talk about here to any kind of colour pencil project. You can apply it to any portraiture project, and colour pencil portraiture is kind of my main skill. The original video was meant to be like a character swap challenge with my friend, but I'll explain more about that later on in the video if you care. But let's get started with the tutorial. So firstly, let's start with the eyes. When I'm drawing an eye, I first like to do the outline and then use like a pink or a peach to kind of shade in the corners and maybe a red or something to overlay it to do like the tear ducts and stuff. And then when it comes to the iris, I like to layer a fantasy color down first, like, I don't know, like a yellow or a teal or a purple or like a color that you normally wouldn't have as an eye. And that just gives it a kind of, I don't know, like a sort of unusual kind of tint and makes it slightly more realistic, I guess, because it's got a bit of an undertone to it. And for brown eyes specifically, I like to use a yellow or an orange. So for this one, I used yellow because there was a lot of yellow in the other like elements of the design, and I wanted it to kind of tie in a bit. I always add a darker outline around the edge of the iris. I don't know why, eyes just have that. And then I'll layer some kind of lines coming out from around the pupil, maybe some other similar adjacent colors as well, so maybe a little bit of subtle orange and stuff. People often find eyelashes quite hard. I'd say the main thing to remember with those is that they're always curved. They don't come out like in a straight line. They'll curve kind of away from the direction of the rest of the eye. And for the eyebrows, I like to put down like a base color of what the hair is, and then I'll get a darker color, normally like a dark brown or even a black, and I'll just follow the kind of shape of the eyebrows and I'll just draw in the individual hairs. So, for skin, you need three colours. You need your light colour, your mid-tone, and your dark colour, obviously. But you also need a third top colour, which is your undertone colour. And this character, personally, has red undertones. But, you know, other skin has different undertones. It's either red, blue, or green. And what you need to do to layer skin is do your lightest colour first over the whole area. And then do over the whole area, do your undertone colour, but really faintly, so they've not got, like, bright red skin. And then you add your shadows on top with the medium and the dark. And I always use my undertone to kind of accentuate the darkest shadows as well. And this little diagram here, that shows you where you need to place your areas of like dark and light colors. So rewind a bit and screenshot that, it's very useful. And I also recommend obviously using a reference and referencing where the shadows are, but when you're drawing from your head, that kind of diagram can be useful. Using an undertone just makes it more realistic and less flat looking. And you may have seen me using a white pencil throughout. White pencils can be used as like blending tools to make the texture a bit smoother. I actually have a blending tool, so I'm not sure why I was using a white pencil. Maybe it was just to show you that you can do it without one. But that just takes the kind of grainy texture of pencils and just makes like a flat, kind of gradienty kind of blend. For the lips, obviously I've already done the lips already and they're in a fantasy colour. But regardless, the lips are always normally the top lip or the bottom lip is darker depending on the angle, and so this angle she's kind of tilting her head back slightly, so the bottom lip's darker and there's like a highlight on the top lip, and it's always like kind of the inner part of it, like the closer to the teeth the darker the color is, if you get what I mean, and it has those kind of creasy lines coming out of it, like curve outwards from the inside of the lip. And noses are what people tend to find the hardest. Just bear in mind that they always cast a shadow somewhere on the face. So in this one, for example, she's tilting her head kind of to the side and the light's coming from the other side, and so the shadow is falling kind of on the opposite side of the nose near where her eye is. So you can see where that is. Up near the top of the bridge of the nose, around the eye socket, there's normally a shadow there, and there's normally a shadow right around the bottom of it near where the nostrils are. Hands, I feel, are harder to sketch out than they are to colour. The colouring's pretty easy. You look at where the shadows are and you fill them in, and you use the undertones, just like when you're doing any other skin on any other part of the body. However, I've literally just noticed this watching it now, because as I said in the intro, this is kind of old footage. Dark-skinned people have, like, lighter palms of their hands, and I know that, and I was using a reference, so I'm not sure why I got that wrong here, but it's, like, pretty obvious, because the palm of the hand's, like, kind of the dynamic feature of the piece. And, like, no one pointed that out to me when I first did it, so yeah, sorry I got that wrong. But yeah, bear that in mind as well. There's a lot of gold accessories on this character, so I'll like drop in a little free drawing gold tutorial. So how I like to do it is I get like a nice rich yellow color, and a brown, and that's kind of all I use. And I just kind of outline it in brown, and I do the shading in brown, and it just makes it look kind of gold. And normally, if I was painting it, for example, I'd put like a big shiny highlight in to show it was shiny. I didn't do that here for whatever reason. Also, as I said, old footage, weird little pop-ups they're gonna come up at times, alright? So that's Hazel. Not quite sure why I felt like I was gonna show you Hazel. This character is not Hazel, this is a different character. This is my friend's character, who we were doing like a challenge where we were gonna draw each other's characters as if they lived in our own universe, because we had quite contrasty things. Like I have a fantasy novel, and she was writing a sci-fi novel, but then she never ended up doing hers, so that's why I couldn't use this video for this. It was going to be kind of like a collab video, but she never actually ended up making a YouTube channel, so that never worked out. But this character was going to live in the same kind of kingdom that Hazel lives in, so I don't know, maybe I was showing you her to show the kind of... I don't know, because their styles are really different though, because obviously she's like a princess, this girl here, and Hazel was a slave, so I don't know why I had to show you her. Anyway, moving on from that tangent, little hair tutorial. So when I draw the hair, as you can see, I get the darkest color for the outline, and then I shade in the entire thing in kind of the lightest color. And there's two ways of doing hair. You can either do it segment by segment, or you can do it color by color. So I like to layer the colors one at a time. So, you know, do the whole thing in the lightest color first, and then you get your next darkest color, and you add the little shading like I'm doing. Like basically just do strokes in the direction that the hair is going. So if it's straight, do it straight. If it's wavy, do it wavy. And just draw each individual hair kinda, and make sure you leave kind of highlighty bits like I'm doing. So in the middle of a clump, there'll be kind of a highlight, and kind of remind yourself where the light's going. The reference that I was using didn't have the same hair. I don't think she had hair. I can't really remember, actually. So I had to make up the hair completely from my head. I actually think you should add undertones to the hair as well. I didn't here, because this is old footage. Maybe I didn't do that at the time. But with darker hair like this, maybe like the same undertone that's in the skin, maybe some red, or like, I don't know, green or blue. Just like a little bit, really subtly, because you don't want to look like they've got dyed hair, unless they do. But just to give it a bit more dimension, a bit more of a shimmer. Because I'm noticing it does look a little bit flat and dead, so I think for this maybe I'd add like a yellow or an orange. So the concept of this character, so my friend's original concept, it was kind of like decora kind of fashion, which I had never heard of that before. It was news to me. And that's basically kind of like colourful, like loads of accessories, and she sent me like a little mood board about it. And so yeah, I had to kind of translate that into my kind of theme, so my more medieval fantasy theme. So instead of like little plasticky, like colourful bits, they were like made of gold, and they were kind of insignias that were more relevant to the culture, so like moon and the sun and the leaves and the acorns, because it's kind of like a nature kind of based, kind of witchcraft kind of culture. Translating a character design from one like really different kind of style and era and context into mine, this was actually a super fun exercise, and I would really have loved it if like my friend would have done it as well, and then we could have had like a fun little collab. And I'd love to have done it again sometime, but it just didn't work out that way, which is okay. But I'd love to do this again, maybe with someone else's character. Little bonus tip for you, when you're colouring like a large area, I like to do a watercolour base first, because it uses less, you know, wrist energy, less pencil lead, less time, it's just quicker. And then I like to use a pencil, obviously, to add all the shading. Again, this is not the outfit that the character was wearing in the reference, I don't think, so I had to make this up again. And I don't think I got the folds of the clothes right. I've never been that great at folds of clothes. That's something I need to work on, but I was pretty pleased with it in the end. I liked how the red colour kind of translated to the rubies and the gems that were used elsewhere, because I was deliberating with like other colours like purple and orange and stuff, but I think red was a good choice. But yes, we're approaching the end of the video now, so if you found it useful, please leave me a like. If you've got any more questions, if there's anything I didn't quite cover, maybe leave a comment and ask me a question. I reply to every single comment, unless it's mean. And I've got loads of other tutorials on other kinds of mediums, like paint and oil pastel and all kinds of stuff. Here's the final piece. Even though I made it ages ago, I'm still super proud of it, and even though there's some mistakes, I still think it's pretty good. I'm going to leave a link to my friend's TikTok in the description because obviously this is her character and she's got other characters over on that platform. And I hope to see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Bye.